Good morning and welcome to today's Global Insight Report. I'm Kristianto, and over the next few minutes we'll take a step back from the day-to-day headlines to explore the larger forces reshaping our global economy. In an era where news travels at lightning speed and markets react instantly, it is easy to get lost in the noise. But today's story is not about fast movement. It is about pause, a growing hesitation in global growth. A slowdown is a name we all recognize, recession. This is not just economic jargon. It is something many are beginning to feel through higher grocery bills, uncertain jobs, and businesses under pressure. Recession don't arrive overnight. They creep in, showing signs that things are shifting. So today we're asking not just if a global recession is coming, but what it means and how we respond. Let's start with a quick look around the world. In the United States, indicators suggest that the pace of economic growth has moderated. Consumer spending has softened in recent months, job creation has slowed, and inflation, while easing in some sectors, remains a concern. The Federal Reserve has increased interest rates to address inflationary pressures, which has contributed to tighter financial conditions. Some analysts warn that if these trends continue, the U.S. could face a shallow or prolonged economic downturn. In Europe, several economies are also experiencing signs of slowdown. Germany, for example, recently entered a technical recession. In the United Kingdom, inflation and rising borrowing costs have created challenges for households and businesses. Labor-related unrest in countries like France and Italy reflects ongoing economic pressures. The European Central Bank has also taken a more cautious stance, balancing inflation control with the risk of stalling growth. In Asia, China's recovery following the COVID-19 pandemic has been uneven. Weak domestic demand, challenges in property sectors, and reduced export volumes have weighed on growth. Japan continues to see modest growth, while South Korea's export-driven economy has been affected in shifts in global demand. Across the region, central banks are navigating a complex landscape of currency volatility, trade uncertainty, and changing consumer behavior. Many developing countries are facing a combination of high debt burdens, elevated from food and fuel costs, and limited fiscal capacity. A stronger U.S. dollar, partly due to American monetary policy, has increased costs of servicing foreign debt for some of these nations. In regions like Sub-Saharan Africa and parts of Latin America, governments are also grappling with inflation and fragile public finances. Although the degree of impact varies, several regions are confronting similar macroeconomic challenges. Understanding the causes behind these conditions and provide insight into possible responses and outcomes. Recent global economic developments are shaped by a combination of factors, some of which have been building for several years. The COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 disrupted economic activity worldwide. Governments implemented large-scale fiscal and monetary measures to reduce the severity of the shock. While these efforts supported recovery, they also created new complexities. When restriction eased, demand rebounded quickly. However, supply chains were still recovering, creating imbalances that contributed to rising prices. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine added further disruption, particularly to energy and agricultural markets. This contributed to additional inflationary pressures in many parts of the world, particularly in Europe and lower-income countries that rely on imported food and fuel. To manage inflation, central banks in many countries raise interest rates. These policy actions are designed to reduce demand and contain price increase, but they also tend to slow economic activity more broadly. In many countries, foreign costs have increased, mortgage rates are higher, some businesses have postponed investment plans, and households are facing increased debt servicing expenses. In sectors such as technology Several large companies have announced layoffs and cost-cutting measures. Small and medium enterprises, especially those with limited access to credit, may be more affected by higher interest rates and slower demand. In lower-income households, cost of living pressures have led to a reduction in discretionary spending. For developing economies, external conditions have become more challenging. A stronger dollar has raised the cost of imports and external debt, while capital outflows have added pressure to exchange rates in some cases. Countries in Southeast Asia, including Indonesia and Vietnam, have maintained stable growth supported by domestic demand and supply chain diversification. In Latin America, some economies have benefited from high global commodity prices, while in Africa, the rise of digital entrepreneurship has supported small-scale innovation and service delivery. In addition, sectors linked to long-term structural shifts such as renewable energy, electric mobility, and digital infrastructure have continued to attract investment. These areas may offer future growth opportunities as the global economy transitions towards sustainability and digitization. While it is too early to make definitive conclusion, most economies suggest that global growth is likely to remain subdued in the near term. The outlook will depend on multiple factors, including monetary policy, geopolitical developments, supply chain adjustments, and consumer and investor confidence. Periods of slower growth often bring both risk and opportunities. Monitoring these changes and responding with evidence-based strategy may help reduce economic vulnerability and promote more balanced development in the long run. Periods of economic slowdown, while challenging, also create space for reflection and redirection. As the global economy adjusts to tighter financial conditions, shifting trade patterns, and evolving consumer behavior, decision makers across sectors are evaluating strategies not only to manage risk but also to identify new paths for sustainable growth. The diversity of regional responses, whether through investment in digital innovation, supply chain realignment, or green technologies, demonstrates that resilience is possible even under pressure. In the coming months, continued collaboration between governments, businesses, and communities will be essential to support recovery and stability. That is all for today's Global Insight Report. I'm Jessica Kristianto, and we will be back soon.